Ronald Reagan was born in Tampico, Illinois on February 6, 1911. His family consists of a father as an alcoholic and failed businessman, a religious mother, and a brother. He attended Eureka College where he played football, ran track, competed in swimming, participated in student council, and acted in school productions. His career path led him towards the entertainment industry where he took part in over 50 films, Nut Rockne, All-American, and King's Row being his most recognizable movies. He used his skills in the military also during World War II, when he was not permitted to join the army due to his poor eyesight and instead made training films. From 1947 to 1952, Reagan was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, or SAG for short. It was there where he met his wife, Nancy Davis. At this time, the Red Scare had spread to Hollywood, and Reagan spent his time there fighting the accusations that communism had spread into SAG. Because of his time in SAG, Reagan has developed a strong opposition towards communism. In 1954, Reagan became host of the show The General Electric Theater, where he toured the United States as a public relations representative for GE. During his job, he gained several ideas that can be seen during his presidency. When he ran for governor of California, his goals spoke to the people, where he aimed to reduce government waste and property taxes. His policies were definitely successful when he got reelected in 1970. Finally, on his run to presidency, he was heavily favored. Reagan's main goals were to rebuild America, fight communism, and reduce government role in the economy. Going against Democrat Jimmy Carter, Reagan won the Electoral College 489 to 49 and won 51% of the popular vote. Reagan eventually became the oldest person to be elected to U.S. presidency at age 69.
Reagan's group of foreign policies were focused mainly on winning the Cold War and stopping communism, and was characterized by the strategy of peace through strength. As a result, the United States built up their strength and in alliances in an effort to overwhelm the Soviet Union. The United States implemented the Reagan Doctrine, which is when the U.S. provided financial and military support to anti-communist groups around the world. Through the Reagan Doctrine, the U.S. provided aid to anti-communist guerrillas and resistance movements in Asia, Africa, and South America in order to diminish Soviet influence in these areas. The U.S. funded freedom fighters such as the Contras in Nicaragua, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and UNITA in Angola. Ronald Reagan, a good friend of Mikhail Gorbachev, is also credited with helping bring down the communist Soviet Union and helping influence the Soviet policies of perestroika and glasnost. Reagan believed that by showing the USSR, who at the time were in an economic depression, that a free market economy would be beneficial, then they would see that communism was not the answer to their problems. Reagan's domestic policy primarily contained conservative economic views known as Reaganomics. The main goal of his economic policies was to reduce the growth of government spending, reduce the federal income tax and capital gains tax, reduce government regulation, and reduce inflation. Because of his policies, Reagan orchestrated the largest tax cut in American history, and by 1988, the top U.S. marginal tax rate was 28%. As part of his plan to win the Cold War, however, he increased defense spending in the United States. Something that influenced his domestic policy greatly was his belief in federalism, free markets, and the development of a private sector. Overall, Reagan's domestic and foreign policy was reflective of what was occurring in America and the world at the time.
So during Ronald Reagan's presidency, something happened called the Reagan Revolution, which he wanted to restore people's faith in the government. Early in his presidency, he said that he wanted to go down in history as a president who made Americans believe in themselves again. He promised it to be the great, confident roar of American progress and growth and optimism, and he did fulfill a promise. However, only 69 days after he became the President of the United States, he was shot. Fortunately, he survived, and his grace and wit made him even more popular in the eyes of the people. Before his operation, he said to his doctors, "I hope you're all Republicans." He also told his wife, "Honey, I forgot to duck." After several weeks of recovery, he was back at work. He had a great relation with Congress. With Congress, he increased the economy, increased employment, and strengthened national defense. And in his second term, he was loved by people so much that he won re-election by a landslide. An interesting story about Reagan was that he was originally a Democrat. His hero was FDR, and he idolized the New Deal. However, as time went on, he became more conservative. And he supported Eisenhower in 52 and in 56, and Nixon in 60, despite being a Democrat. In his job at General Electric, that had him going to different plants giving speeches, he was fired because his speeches were conservative and controversial. There was a kind of big scandal that did decrease his popularity, just by a bit. Members of the president's National Security Council sold arms to Iran, who were involved in the war with Iraq, so that hostages could be released. The proceeds from these sales went to funding rebels in Nicaragua to fight the communists. The scandal, even though it made Reagan less popular, it did not overshadow his great presidency. Another cool thing about Reagan is that he was known as the great communicator. He often went on TV to ask viewers for support with a certain piece of legislation. And overall, after he left office, he had the highest approval rating since FDR. He died at 93 after suffering from Alzheimer's disease on June 5, 2004. He was the longest living president until Gerald Ford took that title.